Alright, so this is the second part. Now that it is all dried, you can see what it looks like. We're now sanding it down now. Here's what it looks like before it's sanded. And then we already started sanding over here. And then if you're not 100% satisfied with everything, you can do a little touch-up like we've done here with the same technique we showed in the last part. And this is what it looks like when it's sanded before you respray your texture. At this point, if you want just a flat surface after you sand it, you can keep it, prime it, and paint and go from there. But if you wish to add texture, after this point is where you would start applying the texture, which is what we are about to do. So we'll keep you updated. This is what it looks like after sanding, and if you need touch-ups, you can do little patches like this. Alright, so you can see now that we pretty much have finished sanding, but the light was still up in the kitchen, so we didn't take into consideration that we had to do under that. So we took the light down and it had some cracks, and the fastest way to handle this situation is to use 20-minute mud and pretty much mix it up yourself and put it on so it'll dry quick, so you don't have to wait a whole day for it to dry. And this is a 20-minute mud. So it looks like this. Let me get a picture of the front. There you go. Get the one that says 20 on it. And that's a powder base. You'll have to use your drill, your mixer, and some water to get it about the same texture as the other stuff. And you can see we've already wrapped everything up with plastic, and we are getting ready to spray. And here is kind of a pan of our whole kitchen. And that patch that we were doing earlier, you can see that's pretty much dried up now too. So before we start spraying, we're just double checking everything. He's just touching up with the sander anything he might have missed. At this point, if you're going with a flat surface, you definitely want to make sure you have sanded out everything perfectly. For the most part, if you're spraying texture over it, you know, you can manage to cover up a little blur. But if you're just going to paint from here, you're going to want to make sure it is perfect at this point. Now we're just getting the mud prepared for texture. We're making sure it's the right consistency. So we want to do a knockdown texture. So what we want to do is make sure it's the right consistency. What we want is a little bit thicker for knockdown. If you're going for orange peel, you want it a little bit thinner. But generally you want to look for like a pancake type of consistency. So you can see how runny it is. That looks pretty good for what we're going for. Since we're doing knockdown, you want it just slightly thicker.
So like also, you want to make it watery enough so you can run down the hopper.
Yeah, and this is the hopper. This is a 1.5 gallon one. So you want to make sure it's not too thick to run through the machine. And we're going to use a medium tip.
Maybe a smaller
Maybe the smaller one. but you know, depending on what you want for orange peel or knockdown, how heavy you want it to look, that's what you're going to use.
That is perfect.
So you can see there, that's perfect, perfect, perfect. All right.
And you take your blade, preferably a 6-inch blade, but this is the handy one I got next to me right now. Clean your edges, because if you don't, it'll dry around here, and it'll crust up, and it'll contaminate your good mud, and then it will plug when it's trying to come out this little hole right here.
It'll clog that up.
It'll clog that up. So you always want to keep it as clean as possible and cover when not in use.
Perfect.
We will show you how the knockdown comes out.
All right, once we load up the hopper, and also what you're gonna need is an air compressor. It's plugged in on the other side of our house, but it's what we have is a rigid 6-gallon air compressor. It's like a little pancake type of compressor, and then a hose. So that's gonna hook up to our hopper. Once we have it all hooked up and we start spraying, we will put the video back on. So we loaded the hopper and put our material in there, and we're just gonna take some test shots, make sure we're happy with how it looks.
It's a large tip.
This is a large tip. Looks great. So at this point, if you're doing an orange peel,
You let it be.
you just let it be. Or if you want to go for a knockdown, this is where you'll take your blade and
Supposed to let it dry.
let it dry for a few minutes, and then do your knockdown. So this is the hardest part to explain with knockdown. You take the blade, and you don't want to put all of your pressure up against it. You want to just let
Let it glide.
it glide right over it. Because if you put pressure on it, you're just going to smudge it all right on and flatten it out. This is really just a technique you have to practice and develop, because I can't necessarily explain to you how much weight or how much pressure you're putting on this.
Now, you want to let it dry a little bit longer so it doesn't look so together, so streaky. The only reason it looks so heavy like that is because it's still wet. It's not tacky. But doing the video, we're just trying to give you the idea of a knockdown.
When we go inside and do it, we'll show you the finished product of the proper look.
Ideal look
The ideal look.
will be here.
Now, if you look over here, it dried a few seconds longer. It came out pretty nice.
That's kind of what you're looking for.
And of course, you know, once you paint over that, that looks beautiful.
Come on that side.
See, this had a few more seconds to dry, and it just made a huge difference.
And that's
So-
kind of what you want.
Yeah, that's the idea you're going for. That's the look you want to get.
Some people like to go sideways. But in this case, that's not good.
All right.
That was it.
So that's that. We were just doing the test shot, make sure it's everything we wanted to do, and now we're going to start hitting our ceilings.
I think we're gonna keep it orange peel.
Orange peel?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, what good one is painted.
Quicker, faster. When was it done? Beautiful. Alright.
So if you've been following this from the beginning, you can see at this point a big difference. All right, so it's the end of the day and we finally got the kitchen clean, ripped the mats and the plastic, and the texture is now dry. There might be a few moist spots, but overall you can see what a difference it has made. And this is not painted. We're gonna prime and then paint it probably next weekend. So this is the finished look from that leather nap roller, that old technique that was in this house, to now having brand new textured ceilings. Well, I hope that everything was informative and that you learned something from this, and that maybe it can help you if you're trying to do this technique yourself. Thank you for watching.